Okay, guys, third time's a charm. We hope. I genuinely tried to record this episode for you all last week, two different times, and neither time it worked. So this week, you are going to get a bonus episode. We'll have two podcasts for you guys this week. Yay for you. This is what doing it imperfectly looks like, at least in my world. Okay, you lace up your shoes, you step outside, and you walk. Pretty basic, right? Except what if the way that we have been walking this whole time has maybe been leaving some of those benefits on the table? What if just a small tweak, 3 minutes at a time, could change your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your leg strength, and your energy levels more than just grinding it out for an hour steady state on the treadmill? That is not just some bogus random fitness influencer claim, but that is what the research out of Shinsu University in Japan has been showing for more than 2 decades across thousands of middle-aged and older adults. Today, we are talking about Japanese walking, also called, and we'll be referring to it as interval walking training, or IWT for short, why women specifically over the age of 35 need to hear this. Do you find yourself constantly grabbing convenience food or hitting the drive-thru because of your busy schedule? Are you tired of your clothes not fitting and wish you felt more like yourself again? Does the word diet make you cringe because of past failed attempts that left you hungry and deprived? I'm Alicia, a wife, mom, fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle coach for women. After years of dieting, losing, and regaining the same weight, I realized I needed a new approach. I was burnt out from trying to be everything to everyone and chasing a number on the scale. To truly show up as the wife and mom I wanted to be and to finally find freedom in my health meant redefining my relationship to food, exercise, my body, and most importantly, to myself. I discovered the power of brain-based nutrition, fitness, habits, and routines to create a healthy lifestyle without restriction or deprivation. And now I'm excited to share everything I've learned with you. If you're ready to follow a simple brain-based nutrition and fitness plan built on habits and routines designed for busy moms and women, you're in the right place. Let's do this together. Hey, I'm Alicia Carlson. This is The Strong Her Way, where we ditch the diet culture noise around food and nutrition. I guess that's actually the same. Exercise our bodies so that we can actually focus on building a body and a life that we love. So let's get into it. Okay, here is where so many of us are at. We know that we should be exercising. We've heard all of the benefits of walking and how it's good for us, and we should be doing more of it. And on the days that we do it, we hit our step goal, we feel proud, we did the thing, we're pumped. But then life gets busy, and a 45-minute walk, while that sounds great in theory, is just not something that's realistic, especially when the kids need something, work blows up, or you're just flat out exhausted from running from thing to thing all day long. And suddenly that whole workout disappears because you only had 15 minutes. If that cycle sounds familiar, that's the all or nothing trap. And it is the thing that really does keep consistency sort of always out of our grasp. But here's what I really want to dig in today is that even on the days that you get your walk in, if you are walking at one consistent, steady pace, essentially doing the same walk day in and day out, you may not be getting the metabolic benefits that you think that you are. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because nobody told you that just like every other exercise, our body adapts to walking, and that there might actually be a better way to get a little bit more benefit in a little less time. And that's really what interval walking training, what people are now referring to as the Japanese walking, changes. And the research behind it is pretty cool and exciting, especially if you are a busy mom. You're trying to get those steps in, you're trying to do all of the things. This could be really a game changer. So I want to pause here and tell you why I care about this topic so much. Is that when I really started to hone in and pay real attention to the research on women's health and exercise, one of the things that kept coming up was this gap between what the general fitness world recommends and what physiology actually supports for women over 35. So it is probably probably no shock to you that we are not the same as we were at 25. Our hormones are shifting, our metabolism can be changing in response to that, or just the loss of muscle mass over time. Even our cortisol response to exercise is different. And yet, most of the exercise advice that we get out there was developed for men. It was tested on men or young women or even menopausal women, and then just kind of handed to us like, this is the universal truth. This is exactly how it's going to work in your body. So when I find something that really is kind of studied in middle age and older women with peer reviewed data backing it up, especially going back over 2 decades, I want to bring it to you because that information we can use as leverage. And I genuinely think that you deserve to have the different information so that you can be an informed consumer. Okay, so what is Japanese walking? Now, the formal name is that interval walking training. We're going to just call it IWT from now on because I'm a lot less likely to mess that up. It was developed back in the 90s by researchers at Shinshu University's Graduate School of Medicine in Japan, specifically in the Department of Sports Medical Sciences. The protocol is actually super straightforward and simple. You're basically going to alternate between 3 minutes of fast walking and 3 minutes of slow walking. You're going to repeat that cycle for just 5 times or a total of 30 minutes. That's really it. There's no equipment, no gym, no app required unless you want to use like a specific app that helps you time those intervals so that you're not constantly having to look at your watch. But here is where it gets interesting is that fast and slow are relative to you. So fast walking means that you're working at roughly 70 to maybe 80% of your peak aerobic capacity. For most people, that feels like you could talk, but only in short sentences. You can feel your legs are working, you're breathing a little bit harder. On the flip side, those slow intervals, that's going to be around 40 to 50% of your peak aerobic capacity. So you're thinking easy stroll here. It sort of is a time to recover your breath and enjoy the view kind of a pace. So essentially, you're really just going to push for 3 minutes and then recover for 3 minutes. And you repeat that for 5 rounds and then you're done. Now, here is why this is different than just walking faster. Sometimes it's really comes down to the interval structure. It's that alternation between that push and that recovery. This is really what is going to trigger those adaptations in your cardiovascular system and your metabolism that just walking at a steady state isn't going to produce in the same degree. So we really want to think of this like strength training, but for our heart and our metabolic pathways. The variation here is the stimulus, and that's what really forces your body to rise and overcome it. It's the same reason that we do progressive overloading in our strength training. If we're constantly lifting the same weight for the same reps, our bodies get used to it, and then they no longer have to adapt and get stronger. It's the same exact thing with our cardiovascular system. So let's talk about what the research shows, because I'm not here to just hype something up if it doesn't actually deliver. We're all much too busy for that. In the original Shinshu University study, the women doing these high intensity interval walking showed significantly greater improvements in their peak aerobic capacity compared to the women who did just continuous moderate paced walking. Cardiorespiratory fitness, which is what our VO2 peak measures, is one of the strongest predictors of longevity according to multiple peer-reviewed studies. A large meta-analysis found that each unit increase in VO2 max is associated with a 9% reduction in all-cause mortality risk. So it's not just about how fit you feel, it's about how long and how well you live. Blood pressure is another big one. A large Lancet meta-analysis of over 613,000 people found that every 10 millimeters of mercury drop in their systolic blood pressure reduced stroke risk by about 27%. Some analyses put that even closer to a third. So that really is a pretty significant reduction that we can get just from walking. And cardiovascular disease risk significantly rises after menopause. So this is not just a small deal for women in perimenopause or beyond, but really something that if I were your coach, I would say, let's sprinkle some some of this into your weekly routine. Benefit 2 is on blood sugar control and metabolic health. So this is something to really kind of lean into in here, especially if you have PCOS. I know it's not called that anymore, but for lack of, now this is something to really lean in and hear, especially if you have what was formerly known as PCOS, insulin resistance, or you're noticing that your body just doesn't handle carbs the way that it used to. When you do this interval walking, specifically those fast walking intervals, your muscles are working hard, and working muscles pull glucose out of the bloodstream without insulin, which is huge. The IWT research shows improvements in blood glucose levels, insulin sensitivity, and overall metabolic markers. And a 2019 study found that participants who did 30 minutes of IWT at least 4 days a week for 5 months reduced their lifestyle-related disease score, which includes blood pressure, BMI, which we all know I don't really love that as a metric, blood glucose, and cholesterol by an average of 17% in just 5 months with walking. In 5 minutes, that would be pretty cool. But in 5 months with walking, again, you don't need a ton of equipment. You don't even need a ton of time if you start to incorporate these intervals. For women in perimenopause who are experiencing metabolic shifts, or women with PMOS, which is what PCOS is now called, polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, who are managing insulin resistance, this is actually pretty meaningful. It's not a replacement for medical care, but it really could be a valuable tool in your toolbox. Benefit 3, leg strength and bone density. Okay, now we're getting into the territory that I feel like a lot of women in this sort of mid-30s and beyond maybe aren't hearing in a way that actually registers. So a lot of times there still is a ton of talk around cardio and fat loss, but leg strength, bone density, those a lot of times get buried in maybe just like lift weights more. And a lot of times women, unfortunately, are still feeling pretty intimidated to get into the gym and to start lifting. But here's what's compelling about the IWT is that the original study found that high intensity interval walkers maintained and even improved thigh muscle strength more so than the moderate continuous walkers. Those fast walking intervals require our legs to work harder to produce more force, and that force production is what signals your muscles and your bones to stay strong. A study in 2024 from PLOS1 specifically looked at IWT in postmenopausal women with relation to their bone mineral density. 234 postmenopausal women completed 5 months of IWT. The women who had lower baseline bone density saw meaningful increases in their bone mineral density at the lumbar spine, so in their low back, and then again at the femoral neck, so the top of the femur that attaches into their hip. The femoral neck, say that 5 times fast, by the way, is one of the most common fracture sites as women age. So this is not, again, a vanity metric, but this is really about staying physically capable and independent as you get older. Raise your hand if you're all about that. I am for sure. Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we put this into practice? We want to make this as concrete and as simple as possible. Here is the protocol straight from the research. You're going to walk for 30 minutes in total, alternating between 3 minutes of fast walking and 3 minutes of slow walking. That is one set. And then you'll just do that for 5 different sets in total. Fast walking, remember, this means we're pushing. So we're at roughly that 70 to 80% of our maximum. Thinking, I could say a few words, but maybe I wouldn't want to or be able to have a full-on conversation. Your legs are burning, your thighs are feeling it, and you are breathing a bit heavier. Slow walking, so those recovery intervals, this means that we are genuinely dialing back the intensity to about 40 to 50% effort. We're thinking about enjoying the scenery, letting that heart rate come back down before we push it up again into that 70 to 80 intensity. The research recommends doing this maybe 4 or more days a week. And here is a grace note from the research is that you don't have to do all 30 minutes at once. Ohio State's review noted that you can split this into 10-minute segments 3 times a day and still get meaningful benefits. So if you got 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes around lunchtime, 10 minutes in the evening, that all still counts. One thing I will note is that if you are finding that your sleep is already kind of disrupted, then you might want to avoid like really, pushing and getting your heart rate up a ton in the evening. So just sort of experiment with it, see what ends up ultimately working best for you. But if you can't get 30 minutes done at once, you can break it up throughout the day. Now, I experimented with the IWT a couple times last week. Once on a training day, I actually went out, did my Japanese walking for 30 minutes, and then came home and did my strength exercise and was totally fine with that. So, normally I would try not to do my cardio and my lifting on the same day, but I felt like with the IWT, I was able to do both. So that is kind of a nice thing. One thing to keep in mind, because there is that actual push involved, is that you are going to want to give your body some recovery time. So this, again, just like with weightlifting, we wouldn't do the same intensity of exercise every single day. We're going to apply that same strategy to this walking. So you want to give yourself maybe 48 to 72 hours between sessions. That 4 to 5 times a week, it's going to give your body some time to recover and to adapt. Remember, we are not trying to grind it out every day. We want to train smart. Now, before we dive into the homework part, maybe that's some of your guys' favorite time of the podcast, I want to call something out. So a lot of women that I work with, a lot of my clients have a complicated relationship with exercise. Either it's been something that they really feel like they failed at, maybe it's something that they can go hard at for a little bit and then they burn out. It's like there's no middle ground. It's either they're all in, they're all on, or they're completely off. Japanese walking is actually an opportunity for a powerful reframe because it asks you to build intensity into something you're probably already doing sometimes. So if you're already going for a walk, that's fantastic. We can just kind of switch up the cadence and the pace and the intensity a little bit. It's not necessarily a new category of exercise that you have to adopt. It's just a slightly different flavor of the walk you're probably already doing. And 30 minutes feels pretty doable for most of us. It's something that we can break up again throughout the day. So it really is something that could fit your real life, regardless of the season that you find yourself in. As a mom, as a busy professional, it's, you've got those little pockets of time or that one window. This is going to fit perfectly in there. And this really is what the Strong Her Way is built on. Not perfection, not all or nothing, but rather sustainable, evidence-based movement that actually works with your body, with your life, and with your schedule. You do not have to earn the right to feel good in your body. You just have to be willing to take the next step to start. So picture this. 6 months from now, you've been incorporating the IWT a few times a week. Nothing dramatic, just 30 minutes, alternating between a faster pace and a slower one. And you're starting to have some real results. Your blood pressure is lower, your blood sugar is feeling more stable, which means fewer afternoon crashes, fewer cravings that you can't explain. Your legs are feeling stronger going up and down the stairs, and you're able to keep up with your kids without feeling completely drained or winded. And maybe most importantly, you have evidence, real physical evidence that you showed up for this. You continued to follow through. You were, in fact, able to build a habit and that you are someone who takes care of yourself and your body. That identity shift is not small. It's not something to ignore. That really is the whole game. The women who stay consistent for the long term are not doing more extreme things. They've just aligned what they do with who they believe they are, and we're going to work to get you there. So if you are ready to stop guessing at what actually works for your body and start building a real plan around fitness, nutrition, and the mindset to hold it all together, that is exactly what we do inside our Fit and Fueled program. It's not another diet. It's not a punishing workout schedule. It's an inside-out approach to becoming a woman who is genuinely strong and fueled in every sense of those words. So if you want to learn more about our coaching, or if you're not quite ready for that, that's totally fine. We have our Fit and Fueled Foundation, which is a great place to start if you're just new to us. You can check out all those links below in the show notes. And if today's episode was useful for you, could I ask you to do a favor and share it with another woman in your life who needs to hear that there is a better smarter way to move her body, whether that's a friend, a sister, a colleague who you know has been stuck in that start-stop cycle. This episode might be exactly what she needs. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I genuinely do not take for granted. So get out there, take a walk, implement one thing from this week, take a breath, and then we'll do it all over again. I'll see you next week. And just keep in mind, you are probably doing so much better than you think or giving yourself credit for. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to The Strong Her Way. If you're ready to redefine your relationship with food, exercise, and yourself, remember, it's all about building habits and routines that fit into your busy life without restriction or deprivation. I hope today's episode inspired you to take the next step on your journey to a healthier, happier you. Don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you found this helpful, please leave a review and share it with other women who need a little extra encouragement. Together, we can all become stronger. Until next time, stay strong and keep moving forward.